Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to our series on teaching your child to read Arabic. Inshallah, at this point your child should have memorized the Arabic alphabet along with the harakat and their corresponding sounds. They should have had plenty of practice blending these sounds of the letters and the harakat together. And now at this point we're going to go on to teaching our children how to read these letters with the harakat to form words and move on to forming sentences. For part 5 in this series, we're going to be using a book called خلاصة القاعدة البغدادية, written by Fahd al-Umar. Now, one of the things that makes خلاصة القاعدة البغدادية stand out is that the author designed it specifically so that you would not need a teacher and that you could do it by yourself with your children at home, which for our case makes it perfect for someone who's homeschooling. In order for your child to be able to read Arabic, they'll have to be able to recognize about 6 essential things: the letter, the haraka, if there's a med, or Tanween, or a Shadda, and Lam al-Qamriya, or a Shamsiya, and anything that would affect it, like Harf al-Ba, or Harf al-Lam. The reason why this book excels is because it goes in a gradual order, teaching these essentials while giving plenty of practice before moving on to the next lesson. Now, before we go into the details of this book, you can go to our website at www.ebihomeschools2.com. Go to our download page, and under the category of Arabic, you'll find a free colored PDF of this book. So this book starts on page 5, and you're going to notice that the first thing we're going to do is go over the Arabic alphabet. Not only we're just going to go over the letters, but we're going to go over the letters in their different forms. So we're going to go over the letters of their standalone form, along with if they are attached to other letters and what they'll look like. We're going to do this using Fatha, and we're going to continue like that throughout the rest of the alphabet. Now, some of you may be saying, wait a second, why are we going to re-go over the alphabet when we've already gone through the process of teaching our child the alphabet, teaching them the harakat, and teaching them how to blend them together? This is for 2 reasons. One, we did all of that before so that our child, when they came to this level, had a very strong foundation. We don't want our child going into a new book and being weak and then having stumbling problems where they're not feeling very confident, and then we have a big problem on our hands. We want the child to go into this book feeling very confident, knowing what they're doing so that they can start out on the right foot. Another thing that we're going to need to do is get the child acclimated with the fact that now we have letters that are going to be a lot smaller. They might be a little bit confused at first, where they might have been using larger flashcards, whereas now they're going to be looking at a book where the letters are going to be printed in a much smaller font. Also, while we're doing this, we're going to be introducing the fact that we're going to be using not only the letter in its original form, but what it's going to look like when it's connected to other letters. The other thing that this section does is very, very good for introducing combining letters together. So here we have ba'un, ha'un, and tha'un with fetha, with all of them, then teaching the child how to put it together to write bahatha, or to read bahatha. On page 14 of this book, we're going to start the second lesson, where we're going to teach the Arabic alphabet with the haraka of fatha. We're going to have this small box right here in order for us to review, and then we're going to move on shortly after that, teaching the child that these 3 letters, when combined, will make this word. The excellent thing about this book is all of the practice that it's going to provide you with for your child in order to really develop a strong foundation in reading these small words. Again, you're going to have this page here, you're going to have this second page, there's a 3rd page of review, and a 4th page of review. All of this review is really going to give your child a strong foundation in recognizing that we can blend these letters together to formulate words. Here we're going to move on to the 3rd lesson of the book on page 19, where we're going to be introducing Kesra. Now, we're going to have again this small section that is going to allow us just to give the child a review. Next cool thing that this book is going to have is a small schedule that's going to allow you to test the child and the different harakat at the same time. On page 20, you'll find that the book gives the child the opportunity to start reading words that are going to combine both the haraka of Fatha and Kesra in one word. You're going to have 2 pages of review before we move on to the next lesson. On page 23 of this book, you're going to find an excellent chart for trying to see if your child really is distinguishing between the different letters in the harakat. This chart is going to go in a random order using different letters along with the different harakat. This is also going to serve as an excellent practice going into the next lesson. After that chart that you use to practice with your child, making sure that they're differentiating between the different letters and the harakat very well, you're going to get 3 following pages of practice for the child, where you're going to have 3-letter words which are going to combine the 3 different harakat. On page 29, we're going to be introducing a Sukun. From page 32 to 34, the child is going to get practice combining all of the different letters along with the different harakat and a Sukun. I'd just like to point out this chart here at the top of page 33. You might find a little bit of difficulty with this page, so you might not want to do it all at once. What I did with my son was we'd do a couple of the words and then we'd come back to them. The reason why I'm saying this is because you're going to have words such as yuhadhidu, taza'za'a, yuqarqiru, yatamalmalu, yutarjimu, and we have stuff like, what is that? Yurafrifu, yuzakhrifu, yastadriju, yusalsilu, yuzamjiru. So you see, even for me, sometimes I'm stumbling over like, alright, what is that word again? So you might want to just do a little bit of it at a time. You wouldn't want to use this as one lesson. It'd be really, really tough on the child. So you might just use this bits and bobs here and there and come back to it while you're going through some of the other lessons. Page 25, we're going to be using a Tanween. The good thing about this is that you're going to have a couple different ways that you could do this. You could start either by teaching the child Ba'un Fatha with a Tanween, Ben, Bin, Bun, okay? Or what you can do is go through the alphabet. Ben, Ten, Then, Jen, Hen, Khan. So you have the option here, and you can use different exercises just to test the child and help them to make sure that they grasp how to use Tanween. On page 36, you're going to get practice with reading Tanween, and they're going to go into a little bit of sentences. Now again, if you don't feel like your child's really grasping putting all of these things together, then you don't have to do it all at once. Skip some of it. That's what I did. I didn't force my child to go through reading all of these sentences. Sometimes if I felt, alright, he wasn't really grasping it right now, I went through the rest of the book and we came back to it and did it later. On page 38, we're going to start introducing med. Now, one of the cool things about this, again, is you're going to have the chart which will allow you to teach the child in a lot of different fashions. You could just start by going across. For example, you'll be going ja, ja, ja'a, majalun, majalisu. Or what you might do is ta, tha, ja, ha, kha. So you can mix things up whichever way you want, helping the child to get different perspectives and to help them recognize what's going on, where we're just starting with the letter of ha, and then we're elongating the haraka and just saying ha. On page 40, we're going to be introducing alif maksura, which is going to perform basically the same job as med, but it's going to be written a little bit differently, where it's going to look like a ya'un without the 2 dots under it. On page 41, we'll be introducing the med for ya. It's going to have the exact same format that we used with the med for alif. And then on page 43, we'll be introducing the med for wawun. On page 46, we're going to have a chart that's going to help us to reinforce with the child the difference between reading with the med or a sukun. So for example, you might have here the word thunakum, and then after it, thawnakum. On page 48, we're going to be introducing a Shadda. You're going to notice that with the gradual progression of this book, we're going to start with just using 2 letters. We're going to just stick with the haraka of Fatha at first, and then afterwards we're going to start introducing 3 letters, and eventually we'll move up to where we're using all of the different harakat along with Shadda, and you're going to get about 6 pages of practice doing this with the child. On page 54, 55, and 56, you're going to get practice using Shadda with a Tanween. On page 57, we're going to be introducing Lam al-Qamariya and Lam al-Shamsiya. You're going to notice on the right-hand side of the page, you're going to have all of the letters that are going to be using Lam al-Qamariya, and then on the left-hand side of the page, all of the letters that will be using Lam al-Shamsiya. You're going to have practice with Fatha, then Kesra, and then Dhamma on both sides. So you have here Al-Ja, Al-Ji, Al-Ju, Ad-Da, Ad-Di, Ad-Du. Again, you can do this in different ways. You could either go across with your child, Al-Ba, Al-Bi, Al-Bu, or you could just focus on one harak at a time, Al-Ba, Al-Ja, Al-Ha, Al-Kha. Whichever way you want, using many different trials to help your child understand the difference between lam al-qamariya, and lam al-shamsiya. On the next 2 pages, you're going to get a chance for your child to practice lam al-qamariya and lam al-shamsiya with actual words. So we're going to have, on the first page, we're going to have all lam al-qamariya, and on the second page, we'll have lam al-shamsiya. For example, al-qalam. And then on the other page, we'll have such as as-siyam. On page 60, we're going to be introducing what happens when we put lam in front of lam al-qamariya and lam al-shamsiya. For example, we're going to have practice with the child, teaching them how to read lil-gha, lil-ghi, and lil-ghu. And on the other side, we'll have a shamsiya teaching lissa, lissi, and lissu. So again, you have the long charts here where you can go in different orders if you want to teach a child across or stick with one haraka, whatever works to help get your child to understand. On page 61, we're going to have a second chart which is going to allow us to use those principles to teach the child how to read with lam entering upon lam al-qamariya or shamsiya with actual words. So on the top chart, we're going to be using for lam al-qamariya lil-hi, lil-hisan. On the bottom, we'll have for a shamsiya lit-ti, lit-teen. The last lesson of this book on page 62 is going to be teaching the child how to read lam al-qamariya and lam al-shamsiya if a ba is put in front of it. For example, bilji, biljimali. Okay, for lam al-qamariya. And then we're going to come down towards the bottom for shamsiya, bitti, bittini. Alhamdulillah, the author of this book has given us permission to put a colored PDF of Khalaصة القاعدة البغدادية available free for download on our website. Inshallah, you found this review beneficial. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.